Hello everyone and welcome to Sum, Count, and Beyond, the Spreadsheet Source, Session 9. Today we will be learning about the VLOOKUP and match functions. In the About section and in the banner image of our channel, you will see a link to a Google Drive folder that has the spreadsheets from all of the sessions. Each file will have at least 2 tabs, Try It Yourself, and Solution. We would encourage you to have your own sheet open or download the file and follow along as we go through our examples together. Before we jump in, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. If you think we missed something or want to see a certain topic we haven't covered yet, leave us a note in the comment section. Let's get to it. In addition to learning about the VLOOKUP and match functions, we will also be working with a data tab and real-world data. As a best practice, we like to keep all of our data on one tab and all of our calculations and transformations on another. In some cases, we will create one raw data tab, so we always have the original data, and a second curated data tab where we may modify some data and add or delete columns and rows. We also like to color our data tabs to separate them out. For example, the tab BLS Data Series is red because it is raw data and we do not want to touch it. And to change the tab color, you can just go down, right-click on the tab, go up here to Tab Color, and then choose whatever color you'd like. Speaking of our data tab, today we will be working with unemployment data provided by both Your Tax Dollars and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Government websites such as the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and the Federal Reserve Economic Data, aka FRED, are great resources not only for live data sets, but also for any economic research you may want to do. Vertical lookup, VLOOKUP for short, is one of Excel's more commonly used lookup functions and allows you to return a data value from a table based on how far to the right the value is from the first column in the range. In words, the formula is equals VLOOKUP, open parentheses, the value you want to look up, comma, the range that contains the value, comma, how many columns right to go, comma, whether the match should be approximate or exact, close parentheses. Confused yet? Don't worry, we will practice it shortly. Before practicing, there are a few items to be aware of when using VLOOKUP. First, the value you are looking up must be in the first column of the range. Second, the function will only look up the first instance of the value, so if your column has duplicates, VLOOKUP will stop at the first one. Third, the column count for how far to go across always starts with the first column of the range. So as an example, if your lookup is in column A and you want to pull data from column B, you would enter 2 to go over 2 columns. Fourth, if you use an absolute reference for the number of columns to go over and then insert a column between the first column and the original lookup column, you will not return the correct value. For example, if you start in column A and enter 4 to go to the fourth column, you will return the value in column D. But if you insert a new column between A and D, the lookup will still return the value in column D, but you may actually be looking for the data in column E. So let's get into VLOOKUP, and before we do that, let's make sure that our values in column A are unique. So we're going to go to cell N2 on the BLS Data Series tab, and we're going to do equals count if, open our parentheses, and we're going to select A2 through A11, and we're going to lock this in, remember, because we're going to be dragging the formula down, so let's lock it in with an F4, comma, A2, and we'll close our parentheses. And now remember, to drag this down, you can either click the fill handle and drag it down. We'll do a Command Z or Control Z to undo that. You can select to the bottom and do a Command D or Control D to duplicate it. Or, we mentioned in session 8, you can just double click the fill handle and that'll bring your formula all the way down. So now we're going to apply a filter to make it easier to determine if all the values are unique. Probably not too hard in this case, but as you get to work with larger and larger data sets, it is helpful. So we're going to select the full range this time. Go to the Data tab on our ribbon, click the filter, and then we're going to hit this arrow in N1 in the Count If column. And we see that all the values are 1. That means all of our values are unique, and that's a good thing. Alternatively, there's this option called Remove Duplicates, where you can select a range and then remove duplicates, and then you can either expand the selection to include everything, or you can continue with the current selection. The reason I don't like to do that is because if you do remove duplicates, you don't actually know what got removed. And so always err on the side of using COUNTIF. It's a little bit extra work, but gets you a better result in the end. Okay, so we have no duplicates in column A, and now we are ready to rock. So first, we're going to do VLOOKUP, and we're going to try 2 different methods. First, we're going to use a finite range, and second, we're going to use an air quotes infinite range. In both cases, we will be hard coding the how many columns to go over portion of the formula, and we're going to go ahead and remove that after we learn how to use match. So let's go to the Solution tab, or try it yourself in your case, and we're going to go to C6. Let's clear these out, don't want anyone cheating. So we're going to go to cell C6, and in C6 we see 2012, and so that is the value that we want to look up in the first column of our range. And in C7 we see the number 4, which is how many columns we want to go over in the range. So if we jump over to our BLS Data Series tab, what we want to do is we want to go to 2012, and then we want to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. And so we would expect the value 8.2. So we're going to go to C8, and we are going to type our formula. And again, because these formulas are a little bit more involved, we've included the formulas in columns E and G. So first we're going to do the finite range. So let's do equals VLOOKUP, open parentheses. We're going to go up to C6. We're going to lock that in. Now we're going to select our range. So we're going to go over to BLS Data Series, and we're going to do the range A1 through M11. We're going to go ahead and lock that in. Then we're going to do comma. We're going to do our column index number, which is going to be 4 in this case. So if we click cell C7, do number 4. Then we're going to do comma, and we're going to do false, because again, we want an exact match. We do not want an approximate match. And then we'll close our parentheses off. And we see 8.2 in cell C8, which again is exactly what we would expect based on just kind of counting it out ourselves. So if we wanted to look at the 4th column, we could switch this to 5. And interestingly enough, it's still 8.2. But if we wanted to say get 7.6, we would just go to 2013. So we would do year 2013. And now we have 7.6, which again, exactly what we would expect to see. So let's undo this really quickly. So now we're back to 2012 and 4. And now I want to show you a little bit more about what I mean about inserting columns. So the lookup is in column A, and we want to go 4 columns over. So let's do this. Let's insert a column right here. And you can do this by either right-clicking and insert. So we'll do that. Or you could do a Command-Shift equal sign to get the plus, or Control-Shift equal sign on your PC, and that also inserts a column. So let's undo that with Command-Z or Control-Z. And so in this column, we're just going to put wrong. And we'll go ahead and we'll Control or Command-D that to drag it down. So now our formula is returning the value wrong. And so why is that? And again, if you remember, because we hard-coded how many columns to go over, and then we inserted a column, instead of getting March, which is what we wanted, we end up getting this wrong. So it still goes over 1, 2, 3, 4, but March is now actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's delete that out. Just undo a couple times. Now we're back to how we should be, so we're happy about that. So next, we're going to look at VLOOKUP again, but we're going to do with what we call an infinite range. It's not really infinite, but for our purposes, it gets us close enough. Now, any guesses as to why using the infinite range may be a better option? If you guess that using an infinite range will avoid you having to change the formula if additional data is added, congrats, you got it right. So the formula for the infinite range is nearly identical to the finite range, with the only exception being that instead of selecting A1 through M11 on the BLS Data Series tab, you will be selecting columns A to ZZ. And so it's a pretty easy fix. So you just go in here into the formula in C8, and you're going to delete out this BLS Data Series. So we'll just delete that. Then if you go to BLS Data Series, you can click column A, and you see up here it goes A to A. And then because I really don't want to drag it across, I can just do delete ZZ. Then we'll lock that in, hit enter, and we get the exact same result. Now, a couple of things to note: it doesn't have to be ZZ. I just tend to default to that. You could do Z, you could do P, you could do whatever letter you want. You just want to kind of incorporate as many columns as possible so that if people, instead of inserting rows or inserting columns or rows, just append data, you're still going to be able to capture that within your formula. So for example, if someone were to come in and start adding data in column V, under the finite solution, you wouldn't be able to use your VLOOKUP. You'd have to change the formula. But because we use the infinite, again, air quotes, range, you'll be able to pick up all the data in column V. So now that we have an understanding of the VLOOKUP function, let's take a look at the match function, which will help us take VLOOKUP to the next level. The match function searches a range for a given value and then returns the relative position of that value in the range. Much like VLOOKUP, it will only return the first instance of a value, so in the event there are duplicate values in the range, it will only return the position of the first one. In words, the match formula is equals match, open parentheses, the value you want to find, comma, the range you want to look at, comma, whether it should be an approximate or exact match. Once again, we are going to try both a finite and infinite range with the match formula, and we're going to go ahead and do that in cell C12. So right here, we see that we want to look up the value mar in our BLS data series here. So let's go ahead and do that now. So equals match, open our parentheses, and we're going to look up the value C11. We'll go ahead and lock that in, comma. Our lookup array or lookup range is going to be A1 through M1. We'll lock that in. And then for match type, a little bit different than VLOOKUP. We have the options 1, 0, or -1 instead of true, false. So we can look for an exact match 0. We can look for a value that is less than what we typed in with 1, or we could look at a value that's greater than what we typed in with a -1. But we want a 0, we want an exact match, then we're going to close that off. And so this is telling us that the value mar is the fourth column, or the position 4 within this range. So now we're going to look at it with an infinite range, and once again, really, really simple to do that. You can just delete out the range that you have currently. So select it all, delete it out, and then we'll go over to BLS Data Series. We'll just select row 1, and we'll lock that in. Hit enter. Again, we still get the value 4, but if we were to add data later on, we'd be able to capture it as opposed to just being confined to the single range. Okay, so we have VLOOKUP, we have match, and now it is time to combine them and take this formula to the next level. So the VLOOKUP is going to do most of the heavy lifting with this, and then the match portion will make the formula more dynamic. So instead of needing to know exactly how many columns we want to go over, the match formula is going to figure out how many columns to go over, pass that into the VLOOKUP function, and that will tell Excel how many columns to go over. So using the match fixes the issue we pointed out earlier, because instead of going over 4 columns to the right, in our case, it's just going to find March. No matter where March is within the array or within the range, it's going to find it for us. So before going to the formulas, one thing we want to be really careful about when using lookups with multiple ranges is that the ranges always need to be the same length or width. As an example, if you select one range for the lookup and a shorter range for the match portion, the lookup will not work correctly because the match will return the relative position of the cell, which will not actually be what you're looking for. And we'll go ahead and show that when we enter the formulas. So let's go down to C15, C16, and C17 and take a look. So what we want to do is we want to look up the year 2012 in the first column, and then we want to find the value March, and we want to go over that many columns to return the value where 2012 and March or Mar intersect. So first we're going to do the finite range. So we're going to do equal VLOOKUP, open our parentheses, and we want to look up 2012, and we'll go ahead and lock that in, comma. I'm going to select our range here. So we'll select A1 to M11 and lock that in. Now, instead of putting the exact column that we want to look at, this is where we're going to add the match. So we're going to do comma, match, and then we're going to look up the value Mar, which is cell C16. We'll lock that in with an F4, comma, and then our lookup array is going to be A1 through M1. Lock that in, comma, 0. Again, we want an exact match. Then we'll do 1 close parentheses. If we jump in here, that's just closing off our match function. And then we're going to do comma, false, because we need to close out the VLOOKUP portion. Close our parentheses. Hit enter, and we see 8.2, which is exactly what we expect. But here's the kind of the cool thing here. If instead of March you wanted to do April, we'll just type in APR into cell C16. Returns 8.2. Again, probably should have figured that out the first time. But if we did May, also 8.2. Wow, this is embarrassing. Let's do December. We know it's a different value over in December. So we do Dec 7.9. So again, this is a really good way to kind of take that formula to the next level and make it much more useful than just typing in a standard number of columns to go over. So let's flip that back to March. Now I want to show you what happens if you have different lengths of ranges. So if you remember here, we're A1 through M11 for our larger VLOOKUP, and we're A1 through M1 with our match. So if we switch this to example to B1, we get 8.3. Now why is that? Well, we have A1 to M11, but if we look at this match portion here, we're saying find Mar, but find it in the range B1 to M1. So if we go to B1 to M1, we go 1, 2, 3, and there's March. So it's position 3 within that range. So what happens within this formula is instead of this returning the value 4, it's going to return the value 3. So if we go here, we highlight our 2012, and then we go over 1, 2, 3 columns. We see that 8.3 is what the value for February 2012 is. So, the answer is right based on the formula you typed in, but it's not the value that you're actually looking for. So let's do a quick Command or Control Z to undo that. So now formula's back to normal. And now we are going to do the infinite range version. So again, very, very simple to do this. We're going to highlight A1 through M1. We're going to delete that out. Go to our BLS Data Series tab. And then we're going to do A and then Z. I will do ZZ, F4, lock that in. And then for the match portion, same concept, delete out what you have in. Back to the BLS Data Series tab, and then select all of column A. Lock that in. And then we'll hit enter. Oh, something didn't work here. Let's see what's going on here. Selected the column instead of the row, so we'll delete that out. Can't find March in column A, so we're going to select row 1. Hit F4. Isn't Excel fun, everyone? And then we'll hit enter. So now we have that 8.2. So let's say we wanted to look at, and again, this is why the infinite range is nice. Let's say we wanted to look at 2022, and we're going to make up another month called Febtober. And the value in Febtober is going to be 15. So now we'll go to solution. We'll do 2022 and Febtober, and we see 15. So now if we had the finite range, it would completely ignore that because it isn't within that range A1 to M11. So we'll go ahead and delete that out. Clean it up a little bit for you guys. Delete. Okay, so well done, everyone. You just learned how to use the VLOOKUP and match functions. So these are both extremely useful functions, and we will continue to build on these in future sessions, particularly the match function. So to sum everything up, the VLOOKUP and match functions are extremely useful when you need to find data in large data sets that is at the intersection of a specific column and row. You can count on this session to help you understand how the VLOOKUP and match functions work, both individually and together, and how they can be used with a real-world data set. And let's keep taking your spreadsheet knowledge beyond what you thought was possible.